our old friend Michael Saylor's back. So let's listen to the guy talk and let's correct the record here, you know.
Uh, I'm really excited to be able to address this group today because I think that Bitcoin represents the most powerful technology force for conservatism in the world. And I don't know that that's fully appreciated, but Satoshi many years ago had this.
Who's Satoshi? Who is he? Who is Satoshi? Why are we trusting a tech we don't know who fucking created it? But we actually do know who created it, because guess who controlled all of the blockchain patents in the 80s? It was the intelligence agencies. Not to mention the fact that Satoshi, whoever that is, has this mysterious bag out there that is an economic gun to our head if we were to allow it into the strategic reserve. Because they can drop it at any point in time and then boom, there goes the value. Always straight through the floor. And the trading market day ends at 5 o'clock, so it'll happen at 5:01 on a Friday. Because crypto's a 24-hour market. Get it?
Vision for sound money and sovereign money.
Okay, how does that apply to a code? How does that apply to a code?
Via technology, via modern cryptography, modern semiconductors, the modern internet. And that idea of giving economic power to the individual in the face of the overwhelming power of the collective.
If you tokenize gold, what do you need Bitcoin for? You don't. You don't need it. You don't need it because it doesn't link to the actual physical world. It's not. It doesn't have any industrial use. It hasn't been money for 5,000 years. Like, there is no argument for Bitcoin at all. Most of the hash power is located offshore, so it can be used as leverage against us. Get it?
When you feel like the government's against you, the banking system against you, the currency is against you, big tech is against you. When you're
So now we're going to, just hand over our nest egg for the nation over to a bunch of miners who can, just swamp the flow of it, or Satoshi who can drop the bag, or all the hash power that's overseas. If they got 51% of the miners, they can, make more, create a fork. This is just old tech, okay? It takes an hour to settle or more. We need atomic settlements. 3 to 5 seconds. Can you do that?
the little guy, when you're struggling for freedom and struggling in the face of overwhelming power, you need some advantage. And Satoshi created this network that's based on two principles. One principle is integrity, and the other principle is sovereignty.
Where's the integrity if we don't know where that bag is? Where's the integrity? Okay? This is about national security, about our economic security. Where's the bag? Where's the fucking bag at? Sovereignty? Buddy, most of the hash power is across seas, overseas. What the hell are you talking about with sovereignty? All it is a dark money network to go to anonymous sources. Okay? This isn't hard.
Integrity, we all know, is there'll never be more than 21 million Bitcoin, and
That's not true. If the miners get together and they create a fork, there you go. You got a new Bitcoin. And by the way, why is it that someone can't just create something else, make even less of them, and then we just use that? It's just it's just a fucking technology. It's a code. That's it.
Enforced by millions and millions of computers and hundreds of millions of people everywhere in the world that believe it's not okay to lie, cheat, or steal. It's not okay to...
But yet, it is used for cartels. It's used for all this other shit to hide transactions to people, to anonymous sources. Trillions of dollars have been siphoned off out of the United States, and they had to do it some way. because it, once it leaves, here, our shores, goes to an NGO, and then it goes to an anonymous source via some blockchain. It's the only way they're fucking doing it. It's the only way to go to an anonymous source to hold the value in it.
Distort the truth. There is a truth. There is a universe.
Yeah, it's called Know Your Customer, okay? All of us being on the open ledger puts the bad guys on the open ledger too, you get it? Alright? Like, don't act like we're not already tracked. Alright, everything we do, doesn't matter. They don't give a shit about your little gun purchase, okay? This is about large-scale movements of value cross-border. And the people that can do that at scale are not involved in the nicest things. The CIA's calling, the NSA, Mossad, the Five Eyes intelligence agencies doing coups, murders, assassinations. They got to find a way to settle and pay people. And what better than, all these unregulated blockchains?
So common ledger that no one can tamper with, no one can corrupt. Not a nation state, not a company, not a politician. And that idea...
Can't do that with Ripple because you need 80% of the validators in order to create more of them. And they're doling it out fairly to all of the people that need to have chips at the table before the first card's dealt. Because it settles in 3 to 5 seconds, and that's how it's distributed out. This Bitcoin shit, buddy, where's the bag at? They will never tell you what the bag is, and they always just say it's store value, store value, store value, store value. It's only a store value if you believe in it. If you believe in it. That's it. It doesn't do anything. Notice, he will never tell you what it does.
Of a censorship-resistant, unstoppable version of the truth was a first in human history.
It was a first.
And then the second idea is sovereignty. It's
doesn't matter if it's the first, if it's not keeping up with the state of technology, okay? Just because, are we going to be, using Pong now? It's the first game! Let's use that! Always! Dude, no, we need atomic settlements, alright? I'm not waiting an hour for this shit to settle. Go into an anonymous source, there's no clawbacks, there's no nothing, what the fuck? Europe's not using it. Okay, none of these other places are using it. Bukele abandoned it. El Salvador, they abandoned it. Didn't take in the local economy because of all these problems. Plus, the drain that it takes off of the network. The power grid.
Well, if there is a truth, can you own it? Right? So with Bitcoin, the idea is you can own a Bitcoin and you don't have to trust a bank with it. You don't have to trust the city with it. You don't have...
You gotta do that either with all these other ones, man. You gotta do that with XRP. You can hold it in Zaman and you're good to go. What's the problem?
You have to leave it in the custody of a big company. You can take self-custody. So...
You can take self-custody with everything. It's okay.
We oftentimes say, what do you own? The only thing you own are your memories. Everything else in this world that you own at the pleasure of someone more powerful than you, and they can take it away from you via force. What they can't take away from you is your experience and what's in your head.
Okay, how's that relate to Bitcoin?
And the brilliance of Satoshi was, what if we could put all of the money in the world into the heads of the people? What if what you knew was the password to unlock all of your wealth or protect it, and nobody else could take it away from you? And that's a profound shift, because what Satoshi did was gave us a network where hundreds of millions of people can own and control their economic energy in a censorship-resistant, unstoppable fashion. And that was an idea worth nothing for a year, and then it became worth $1 million, and then it became worth $1 billion, and then it became worth $10 billion, and then it became worth $100 billion. And when...
Side note, alongside that going on, we have this explosion in fraud. Massive explosion in fraud from the U.S. government of all of our money just going wherever. Where do you think it's going? It's going into this bullshit in order to do these massive fucking transfers. And they're storing it in it, and it's driving up the price. And, Tether, they print out all this USDT that they don't post any audits for in order to facilitate more of these transactions over the Bitcoin network that takes, an hour to settle. But the cartels don't care. They don't care how long it takes to settle. They can settle. That's an improvement from not being able to settle. Okay? Because it can't touch the banks.
MicroStrategy, now Strategy got into business about 4 years ago. It was worth $150 billion.
Yeah, and you've been taking out fucking loans for it too, haven't you? It's just infecting all of these unsuspecting financial institutions. And, they're all just banking on fucking Bitcoin getting added to the strategic reserve in exchange for our fucking gold, for this code that we have to have fucking faith in. Go on.
And today it's worth $2 trillion.
And at that time, you were a software
company. Not impressed.
And you saw this as an opportunity, a different opportunity.
We were a software company, and we were staring at a quick death or slow death or take a risk. And, when the COVID lockdowns took place and the interest rates went to zero, we had to decide, were we going to sell the company, throw in the towel, or could we find a way out? And this is the challenge that 40 million companies in America have, which is, if you're not one of the Magnificent Seven, if you're not Apple or Google or Microsoft, how are you supposed to compete in a world where trillion-dollar companies have all the power, big banks have all the power, big government has the power, and big...
Oh, quit this David and Goliath shit. You weren't fucking targeted, fella, like Ripple was. Okay? You weren't fucking targeted. I don't even want to hear it. I don't want to hear this David and Goliath shit. Okay? Knock it off. You lost $4 billion during the dot-com bubble because you called it wrong. Alright? And you're calling it wrong now again about a tech.
Bitcoin offered us the way out because if
I bet it did.
Capitalize the company on Bitcoin, you're not slave to the bank, you're not slave to the currency, you're not slave to the local politician that tells you what.
Oh, really? So all this money that got, taken from us and printed up, it had to go somewhere. And we see this rise in Bitcoin? Get it? How do you think they're doing this?
You can do and how you can use your money. Instead of having the central bank take interest rates to zero and keep them there forever, like Bitcoin gave us a 60% return every year because the Bitcoin interest rate is set by a global decentralized system of capital flows.
Yeah, so is Ripple, okay? So is XRP. But only it's really decentralized to sovereign nations who are validators. It takes 80% in order to, make any more of them, which it will never fucking happen. They distribute it out fairly among all the stakeholders in the institutions that have to solve cross-border payments because we need a new Federal Reserve system. Bitcoin, all you got, is store of value? You don't have a means of exchange. You don't have a method of payment. You don't have a unit of account. You need all three. They just abandoned in Europe the unit of account measuring for Bitcoin because it's not KYC, know your customer. And it can't do the scale of money transfers that are going to be necessary to take down SWIFT. God, man. Do I really got to sit for this?
So my company was able to save itself when we switched from Bitcoin, from the U.S. Treasury or the bond to Bitcoin. Our market cap increased from $1 billion to $100 billion. And our enterprise value increased from $600 million to $105 billion. And we went from a $500 million company growing 0% a year, competing against a monopoly, Microsoft, where it's hopeless, to a...
Again, where is the printed up money coming from?
$50 billion company growing 60% a year that's part of the digital economy. So I feel blessed, and we are very fortunate, but that really motivated me with a mission. And what I realized is Satoshi gave us a way out of our conundrum. Satoshi gave us a strategy that makes a small company big and powerful, that makes the individual more powerful than the state, that turns the power balance between the collective and the individual on its head.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't, because where's the mystery bag at? Where's the mystery bag? Okay? They will never answer these core fundamental questions, okay, about this technology and about its supply. If it's a nuclear bomb, that bag. Nuclear fucking bomb.
And the secret to that is this powerful worldwide network that puts the individual first, that's uncorruptible, that anybody can join, that gives you unfettered...
Including the bad guys. This is why we can't use this shit, man. Some things you shouldn't be able to do money transfers for. Okay, now historically we had banks as intermediaries to prevent this type of shit, and we made them take cash across the border. Now they only got to take a fucking flash drive for, trafficking kids, or, the guns, the drugs, whatever else they want to do illicitly. Or, finance some coup in some fucking, third world nation just to, get a pipeline through. All right, this is the shit they never talk about. They're all talking about, the individual. Look, man, what the banks have done to conservatives is wrong. It never should have happened. And the answer is to go to a decentralized system. I agree. But your tech can't do it at the scale that needs to be done. And we can't earn a yield off of it. Why would we put this in our strategic reserve if we can't earn a fucking yield off of it, off of its function, its use, processing payments? People just have to believe in this fucking thing, and we still don't know where the mystery bag is.
Uncensored property rights.
Well, to that point, I had spent the last couple days preparing for this.
Speaking of which, the whole point of property rights is to enforce property rights, is to get politically active, to pass laws or repeal laws to enhance property rights. This is all about international money transfers, okay? If you want a store value, tokenized gold. That's where we're going, fella. That's where we're going. That's where all of this is heading. And then the tokenized gold is going to be used to back probably RLUSD along with treasuries and everything else, which is going to be transferred over the digital, the distributed ledger network of XRP in 3 to 5 seconds. I'm so sick and tired of this dude.
And had a list of questions for Michael. And about 10 minutes before we sat down on the stage, and he goes, let's talk about why Bitcoin is conservative. Let's talk about why this is your coin and this is your industry. So, Michael, how is Bitcoin conservative? Why should it be important to this audience,
Here we
the
go.
largest conservative conference in the world?
Bitcoin literally represents the conservation of energy in cyberspace.
No, it doesn't. It zaps so much energy out of the grid to run all of these fucking networks.
Satoshi implemented a protocol which is inherently conservative. If I
Who is Satoshi?
send Bitcoin to you, I lose it, you have it. I can't create more. I can't lie about it.
That is not true. The miners can collude. They can leverage to create another fork and make this one fucking useless.
The thing that's beautiful about nature is conservation of energy. Conservative is based on natural law. It's based on the idea that if you just make something up which isn't true, you'll be punished. And the Bitcoin network represents that innate integrity and truth. So, if you think about the world today...
No. Okay, then why aren't you telling the truth about who Satoshi is? Huh? Want to talk about truth? How are you going to make us use our tax dollars to buy it with our fucking gold for something you're not telling us the truth about? Who the fuck is Satoshi?
there's just an inherent force. There's a struggle between capitalism and socialism, between people that believe in freedom and free markets and those that believe in central planning and collectivism. And if I'm a socialist, I want to...
Believing in Bitcoin is not... How is that the answer to the other? You're not answering that question. Because it can't handle the amount of transactions that's necessary to create a decentralized reserve to free the rest of the nations from SWIFT. That's been the whole problem throughout all of human history. It's not store of value. It's the ability over transactions. It's the ability to create, wealth from nothing. From the person that has the reserve currency. But if there's no reserve currency, nobody needs to tie their boat to that frickin' Titanic. So we need a decentralized reserve that can handle all of the transactions. Bitcoin can't do it. The protocol can't do it. It's been proven. Bukele abandoned it. It didn't take in the local economy. You got nothing left, fella.
Take away your guns and your money. And Bitcoin is money.
Bury the guns and shoot back.
That they can't...
I'm sorry, bury the gold and shoot back.
Take away. Like, what freedom do you have if you have all of your money in a bank that can freeze it? What freedom do you have if you have your money embedded in a currency that where someone can print 4x more of it without your approval and debase it to zero? What freedom do...
Dude, the answer is to have audited backing through tokenized gold. Because the rest of the world accepts gold. Like... We have to do business with the rest of the world. We're not going to back our fucking currency by Bitcoin if no one accepts fucking Bitcoin. It makes no fucking sense. Everyone accepts gold. Everybody does.
Do you have if you own real estate in a city where the mayor can put rent control on it or expropriate it or the governor can tax it away from your family? What freedom do you have if all your wealth is in a business where the government can tell you you can't operate, shut down your pipeline, tax your employees, tax your income, regulate your product? And the answer is you only have conditional freedom until the government changes and they just take away that freedom. And then
we only have conditional freedom with this Bitcoin as long as that bag's not dropped. It all loops back to this. Who the fuck is Satoshi? And why are we trusting him? It's still a fucking trust network. At the end of the fucking day. At the end of the day, it's still a trust network. We're trusting this mysterious fucking semi-divine figure.
When they take away your wealth, when they take away your economic power, they're going to starve you to death, and then you've got nothing. So Bitcoin represents putting your economic wealth in cyberspace. It's beyond the reach of the mayor, beyond the reach of the governor, beyond the reach of any nation's...
No, it's not. No, it's not. Then how the hell did the government take all that Bitcoin from all those seizures? How did it happen? How did it fucking happen? Because they could track it. They can track it, create a pattern of life, subpoenas, everything up all the way up to 9 yards. Like, come on, man. This is fucking ridiculous.
State, beyond the reach of any other company that would do you harm. It is the first time in the history of the human race that you can bind economic energy tightly to an individual, to a family, to your company, and you don't have to ask permission to have economic wealth, to have money, and you don't have to live in fear that someone gets up on a morning and just takes it all away from you.
Yes, we do. Satoshi's back. Why aren't you, why isn't anybody, give a shit about that? Why does that always just... None of his comments ever take that into account. It's like he's acting like it doesn't exist. And that's the problem with this fucking dude.
To power you down. And so if I am conservative, I want a family, I want a company, I want freedom. Well, how are you going to pay for it? And if you live in a country like Venezuela and the currency goes to zero, you're going to be begging for food next week. Wouldn't it be great if I could take the wealth of my family and put it into a network that no one can loot, no one can corrupt, and at the end of the day, I don't
the bag
want to gamble my future. I don't want to take my life savings and gamble in the stock market. I don't want to take my life savings and gamble that the mayor of the city won't just take my property away from me.
That's why we can have tokenized gold. What do we need Bitcoin for?
I actually just want to own the wealth. I want to own my money. And Bitcoin is a way for you to convert your capital into digital capital that will last 1,000 years.
It didn't even last 10 with El Salvador. What the fuck is this guy talking about, man?
Your country will be, your company, your country, or your family will be wealthy for generations to follow. You don't have to live in...
Really? How am I taking a yield off of it? How is it going up in value besides just store value? This makes no fucking sense.
Fear, and when you don't have to live in fear, when you have economic independence, you can actually...
Side note, I think it's hilarious how wine is right next to his face. Keep hawking back that hooch, buddy.
Stretch your time horizon out, and you can build an institution, you can build a family, you can build a life for yourself.
Michael, you talked about several things there. One is wealth, sovereignty, agency, the ability to come in, and for someone, a mayor, a city councilman, to take what you have. We've seen that happen from New York to California. A lot of us have been subject to this. And then you also talk about leadership. We have President Trump. We have the greatest leader our nation has ever had.
And you didn't get the picture with him. I'm sorry, fella. Now you're making your plea to CPAC. Try to save face a little, huh?
He's compared to George Washington. People love him. We love him. He sees Bitcoin, he sees the digital asset industry as an exceptional opportunity. How can America...
Digital asset stockpile, not Bitcoin strategic reserve.
ensure its dominance moving forward?
You know, that this nation became great because of the Louisiana Purchase. We bought a third of the country from Napoleon for a few $1 million. Then we purchased Texas and California from the Mexicans for a few million more. Then we purchased Alaska from the Russians for a few million more. We didn't even know there'd be $1 trillion of mineral rights underneath Alaska.
We annexed Texas. We annexed them. We didn't fucking pay for it. We annexed Texas in the Mexican-American War. The hell are you talking about, boy?
When we purchased it, they called it Seward's Folly. But what I'm describing is manifest destiny. If you want to create a great nation, you have to build it on valuable property. You have to know, where is all the money headed? Where is the future? When we bought California, we didn't know there'd be a Hollywood. We didn't know there'd be a Silicon Valley. No one really considered it.
We knew there was gold there. Oh, yeah.
In 1867, we didn't have a petroleum industry. And so where is the money headed in the future? The money's headed to cyberspace. Bitcoin is property in cyberspace. The manifest destiny of this country is to own cyberspace. And I think that President Trump understands the value of owning scarce, desirable property. If we go to cyberspace and we...
he also understands that you can't allow something that has a bomb just waiting out there to be dropped, and then crypto's 24-hour market. Like, this dude's making no fucking sense.
Buy Bitcoin and the nation embraces Bitcoin, then all of the capital in the world, all of the Chinese money, all the Russian money, all the European money, all of the money from the 20th century, the money invested in a Siberian warehouse, the money invested in fill in the blank, anything you could possibly own in Africa. All of that capital is flowing into cyberspace. It's going from physical to digital. It's flowing from the 20th century to the 21st.
Including the bad money. And there is bad money out there, people. You don't want child sex traffickers to be able to transact. No one should want that. You know, for decades we had laws in banks about this shit, you know. And they're skirting around it with these unregulated blockchains and holding their value there because it's a lot easier to transport than cash or gold or anything else.
The 21st century is going to be a billion AIs thinking a million times a second. And what are they going to be using to move their money around? They're going to use digital money because they can't get a bank account.
Exactly. And they're going to choose the most efficient tech to do it. And it's not Bitcoin. Get it?
They can't get a credit card. I have to approve my wire transfers from my bank once a week. It takes about 20 minutes, and they ask me on the phone whether the money should move.
It's a good problem. What's 478,740 Bitcoin, Michael?
The computer.
No, it takes 3 to 5 days to settle cross-border payments under SWIFT, and under Ripple, it is 3 to 5 seconds over a distributed ledger, creating a decentralized reserve, because it takes 80% of the fucking validators to even, you know, create any more of them, and there'll never be any of that type of consensus, because sovereign nations are going to be fucking on as validators on the fucking network. Dude, what the fuck is this guy talking about?
Too bad is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I get it. But my point, you realize we've been doing it that way for 50 years.
50 years.
And if you look at the way the digital economy is going to run in the 21st century, it's going to be a billion computers thinking a million times a second, moving assets at the speed of light. Bitcoin represents digital capital. That network is $2 trillion today. It's going to be $20 trillion in 4 to 8 years.
No,
it's going to be 200.
You can't even get El Salvador to fucking keep it. Bukele used that whole Bitcoin thing to get that loan from the fucking IMF because they just found a huge gold vein, which they know the tokenization's coming, so they just didn't see a Bitcoin, and now you're trying to hawk this shit to the American people. And you never addressed that missing bag.
$1 trillion in 20 years. Then it's going to grow faster than every other asset in the world. It's going to continue to grow.
Objection, speculation.
The United States should own it, right?
Is that the conversation? Talk to us about the U.S. Bitcoin Reserve, everyone, and we've heard a couple other coins being yelled out by the crowd, and people want to know: are we going to have a U.S. Bitcoin Reserve? And when is that going to happen?
The way to think about Bitcoin is it's the most powerful
objection.
Network in the
he didn't
world.
answer.
It is cyber power. If you want
He's
to
not answering
dominate
it.
the next 100 years, just like the last 100 years is based upon dominating sea power, fire power, air power.
He's
space
not
power,
answering it.
Nuclear power. You want to dominate cyberspace. You want cyber power. It's the unstoppable network that no one can corrupt, and the use of the unstoppable.
Where's the missing bag? That's the problem, because he can't fucking answer it. Do you get it? Do you fucking get it? He can't fucking answer it. That's why he's not saying it. That's why he's not saying it, because it's not even in the discussion anymore.
Unstoppable network, among other things, is hundreds of trillions of dollars of capital moving from point A to point B. But the other
You can do that with XRP in 3 to 5 seconds.
use of the network is
Bitcoin takes hours.
I can send a message which is unstoppable, and I can store information that is unstoppable, and I can prove beyond a shadow of a doubt the authenticity of an instruction or a document. No country, no company, no individual, not 1 trillion computers can corrupt that message. So if you want to own the future, you want to own cyberspace.
It's not true. Quantum computing is right around the fucking corner, fella.
How do you own cyberspace? You own Bitcoin, and then you run the Bitcoin networks. You mine Bitcoin, you own Bitcoin. President Trump understands property. He understands the value of Greenland. He understands the value of Alaska. He understands the value of oil rights. He understands drill, baby, drill would be impossible if we didn't own the land, right?
He understands American dominance.
And
Land can be used. Oil can be used. Gold can be used. Bitcoin, what's it used for? And whatever it's used for, is there something else that can do it better?
land is physical property. When I run electricity through semiconductors and I create a wall of encrypted energy, I create digital property. Bitcoin is digital property. You should own it.
Where's the bag? Don't you understand? This is a national security threat. Whoever holds that fucking bag, and we don't know who the fuck it is. At any point in time, they could drop the bag, and all this money that we'll put into it just be gone. 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 Gone.
Your company should own it. Our nation should own it. It is the future.
Please smuggle in this fucking bomb.
In your perspective, how soon do you think we're going to be buying Bitcoin and have within our U.S. reserve at a timeline? It's going to be 12 months, 24 months?
I think there's an appreciation of the power of Bitcoin throughout the cabinet, throughout the House, throughout the Senate. There's going to be a political process by which we build consensus with the White House, the Senate, and the cabinet, and find the right way.
And you're going to lose that fucking argument, fella. You're going to lose that argument.
through. But, you know, what I would say on this topic is the U.S. could own 20% of the network like that for free. The dollar would strengthen. The nation would be enriched.
Free?
And the real promise is if you own 4 to 6 million Bitcoin, you're going to pay off the entire national debt. You're going to neutralize it. We can
If they don't take it as payment, how are they gonna fucking pay it off? They are not taking this shit as fucking payment. They're not accepting it. They accept gold. They'll accept tokenized gold. But if the rest of the world doesn't accept it in their fucking institutions and their banks and everything else, they're not going to take it. Not to mention the fact that bag is still out there. Why would they accept something that has a fucking bomb like that just hanging out there? None of this shit makes sense.
generate a $50 trillion to $80 trillion benefit to the United States.
Objection, speculation.
To the citizens, to the taxpayers. And we can do it simply by seeing the future. It
Objection,
cost $6
hearsay.
million to buy Alaska. The payoff was $1 trillion. Just like right now, you can literally buy it for a song and dance. That's the opportunity. The risk is that you wouldn't want the Saudis to buy it first, or the Russians, or the Chinese, or the Europeans.
And they're not doing it because they're not fucking stupid, dude. The risk. Where's the bag?
And there's only room for one nation state to buy up 20% of the network. And obviously, I think it should be the United States. I think it will be the United States. It's a way for us to
Objection,
enrich
hearsay.
ourselves and emerge as a creditor nation in a matter of a decade.
Objection, hearsay.
It's also a way for us to ensure that we're the economic leaders in cyberspace and the digital economy for the next 100 years.
Objection, speculation.
And if we do that, every one of our allies will follow us, and then all of our enemies will end up having to buy into the network once it passes 10 or 20 million a coin, and they will...
Network. Most of the hash power's offshore. We don't know where the bag is. It takes hours to settle. What the fuck are you talking about, dude? And it takes faith to believe that none of that matters.
Enrich us.
And we saw that just yesterday. President Trump was in Miami, and he was talking about Bitcoin. The Bitcoin reserve is a touchy subject. A lot of people want to know what other coins within the digital asset industry are going to be involved. The U.S. does not just hold just gold and oil within our reserve. It holds up to 27 other trace minerals, and so we're completely diversified. Do you see room for another digital asset to be included in the Bitcoin reserve?
Oh, here we go.
The U.S. financial reserve system.
I think the key thing to keep in mind right now is that Bitcoin is a commodity. It is an asset without an issuer. There is no...
What else is not a security, huh?
No company, no individual, no country, no entity that can corrupt it. It has...
Except that mysterious bag out there that can collapse the fucking value.
Reached escape velocity. It has gotten to the point
It
where...
does not reach escape velocity. It's just being used to store a bunch of stolen fucking money from our pockets. From the USA, from the Ukraine money. Where do you think all this shit is going? Alright? Just going out into the ether just to yachts and everything else? No, dude. Come on. They gotta be able to transport this cross fucking border.
It is basically...
To anonymous sources.
A freedom virus, a truth virus, a monetary virus. It has been
It is a virus.
embraced by $1 trillion of smart money. That is $1 trillion.
How much of that was printed up, man? Printed up and then appropriated out in order to store there to facilitate some dark money transaction to pay off some politician or some CIA fucking front or whatever the fuck.
Dollars of real money has been invested in the network. It is 99% of the digital power on Earth. It's fairly unstoppable. And so if you're going to capitalize a company or a country, you want to capitalize it on property or a commodity or a network which is beyond the point where anybody could change the nature of it. And so that makes Bitcoin...
Not true. Not true. All the miners can collude and create another fork.
The most certain thing in the digital universe.
And when you talk about certainty, and when you talk about truth, over the last 4 years, we've experienced as a culture travesty. We haven't been able to speak. We've been censored. How does Bitcoin, what is Bitcoin to you? What do you see that others don't? And how can conservatives capitalize on the opportunity to take advantage and make sure that America is dominating our future, that we have the economic freedoms, that our children and our families and the
Side note, get an interviewer that understands the technology to ask the appropriate fucking questions.
America will stay at the front runner of this industry.
What I would say to everybody in this room is if you want freedom, if you want liberty, if you want to live your finest life, you're going to need economic power. You need physical power, you need political power, but you need economic power.
Platitudes.
Bitcoin represents economic armor.
No, it doesn't.
When you put on the suit of armor...
Dude, where the fuck is the bag?
Then no mayor, no government, no collectivist, no socialist.
Truth. Who is Satoshi? Who is he? If we don't get that answer, fuck off.
Can debank you. They can't take your money away. They can't impoverish you.
They can't do that with XRP and the XRP ledger either. Alright.
Just like a gun is a deterrent, Bitcoin is a deterrent, because if you have wealth in Bitcoin, you have the option to move it to any jurisdiction, and you can keep it and no one can take it away from you by a force of violence, no matter where you are on Earth.
That includes the scammers, that includes the child sex traffickers, that includes the drug dealers, includes the cartel, includes the CIA, includes the Mossad, includes the Five Eyes intelligence agencies, includes the cabal, includes all of those fucking people. Get it? Fuck this dude. Fuck Bitcoin. XRP all the way, man. Because this is fucking ridiculous what they're trying to put us through. It's another scam, people. It's another fucking scam. That's all it is. It's a big fucking scam because they don't tell you who Satoshi is. Don't tell you anything about that missing fucking bag. We just have to have, faith. Faith that this semi-divine figure that's called Satoshi is not gonna fuck everybody over. And it can't do the job anyway. It can't do the job of international transfers in 3 to 5 seconds. That takes hours, and all the hash power is located offshore. It's going to anonymous sources, which means the bad guys, people. Fuck this dude.